Yes, it's the IAG power seat. Yes. What do you think, Ben? Power seat?
Yep, brilliant, Andrew. I feel like I'm on a game show, ready to go.
Well, our very special guest in the power seat this week is none other than Aussie Millions Tournament Director, Danny McDonagh. Come on in, Danny.
Hi, good morning. Morning, Andrew. Morning, Ben. Pleasure to be here.
How are you, Danny?
Very good. Very good. I must admit, I'm looking forward to returning to Crown.
Well, I think the first time I ever saw you must have been like maybe, I don't know, 25 years ago or something, down in the Crown poker room, down in the basement. Remember those days?
Yes, it would be 25 years ago. Okay, like there would be some of the Sunday tournaments guys who went on to be world champions, were playing a $50 tournament. I can remember yourself in tournaments. So yeah, time does fly. Unfortunately, it's probably longer than 25 years for some people.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't go on to become one of those champions. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it's great to see you, Danny. Ben, questions for Danny?
Yeah, I mean, look, Danny, you played a big role in building the Aussie Millions up to what it is today. But, it's been almost 20 years since you were back at Crown, or certainly 16 or 17 years doing the Aussie Millions. I mean, how does it feel to be going back there this year?
It feels, in some ways it's kind of like it's a homecoming, as some people say, but it is such a long time. It doesn't feel like such a long time. It was 2008 was the last time I was like the head TD, so the first 6 of the Aussie Millions. I did come back for 3 years in a support role when it was part of the APBT, so from 2014 to 2016. But it's 10 years since I've seen the Aussie Millions in action.
Danny, I think it was 2003 might have been the first year that you were really involved in the Aussie Millions directly.
Correct.
Can you talk us through your sort of memories of what the tournament was back then and what your vision was for growing it from that base?
Yeah, as a bit of a prelude to it, so 1997 poker started. 1998 we had the first Australasian Poker Championship that went over 5 years. There was a guy in about 2001, Jason Gray. He was one of the bigger poker players in Australia. He said to Bendigo, who was a big part of starting up the poker, how about we do a bigger buy-in tournament? So there was, I think it was a 5K Omaha in about 2001. In 2002, we shifted to January for the Australasian Poker Championship. And we had 66 players at $5,000. And at that time in Australia, it was a huge buy-in. They did a 9-way chop just to demonstrate that players weren't used to that type of money. So before the final table started, 1 year later, the Aussie Million started. We cracked the million, which was great. And then over 5 or 6 years, we went from 122 to 780. So it was just a huge increase. And initially, the European players were right behind it. The Hender Mob, the real Hender Mob, not the website, they were attending. Peter Costa, of course, he was the first champion. Europeans were the first people to really support it. And then the Americans got behind it. And just about anybody who was a name in poker played in the Aussie Millions in the ensuing years.
Danny, as you say, it went international, but it's a lot. Australia's a long way from anywhere. I mean, what was the lure? How did you sort of entice those international players to first give it a shot and come to Melbourne?
Certainly the Melbourne being a livable city, the Crown complex itself, the tennis. It was paired so well with the tennis at that stage. They were big factors. Even like the Capital Golf Course. I played golf one day with Phil Ivey and Mike Sexton. I kept well out of it because they were betting a fair bit of money on each hole. But Crown really looked after the players. We had VIP hosts, but they were actually poker background. So that really made a difference too, I think, with hosts really understanding the needs of the players. Tush on the media side was great. So everybody really got behind it. VIP section or department of the casino. Once we had it for a couple of years, everybody was on board. And I think it was a huge team effort for the whole casino.
I think, Danny, one of the things that probably it's harder for you to say, but maybe easier for me to say, as a player who played in the Aussie Millions lot, was I noticed compared to other places, the dealers were better, the quality of the supervision was better. You felt very, very comfortable in that room. Everything worked. Sometimes you're in a poker tournament and you can just tell there's mayhem going on around you and it wasn't well organised. But that tournament always felt to me that both the main event of the Aussie Millions, the 10K event, and even the smaller events as well, you felt like a well-oiled machine. Everything just worked. Registration worked. The tournament started on time. Whenever there was a controversy or something, something at the tables or whatever, it was sorted out well. Maybe you could just explain a little bit about the training and sort of the culture of poker at Crown, because it's always felt, to me as a player, it's always felt one step above any other poker room in Australia and many of the others around the world.
It's good. Yeah, it's a good point. I think one of the things early on was we actually had permanent staff in the key positions. Initially on the list for the cash games, and then it was familiar faces running the tournaments, and even dealers. We would have what was known as casual employees, but they were, when it came to the tournament, they'd be available every day. So it was a real, unlike, I suppose, a lot of other venues around the world, a lot of the staff were virtually permanent. And that was a big assistance in, as you say, putting on such a huge event and at a high level.
Danny, two things sort of happened as well around about that time. Joe Hasham won the World Series of Poker main event, which sort of caused a bit of a boom for poker in Australia. And also this was the era of online poker, the real online poker boom, Poker Stars and Full Tilt. I'm sure you attended many very interesting parties that they used to hold back in the day as well, Danny.
Yes.
What sort of extent did they contribute to the growth of the Aussie Millions during that period as well?
Yeah, they were big. There was one other factor too, whole cards on TV. It started off with the English show, Late Night Poker, and it was basically a camera underneath a glass plate for each player. So that got people coming in and say, I want to play the game on TV. We did have Channel 10 had the World Poker Tour Season 1 showing on Saturday night, commercial TV. And we get young kids coming in, I want to play the game on TV. And then all of a sudden, we were starting to push more Hold'em, cash games and tournaments, of course. And then the two factors that you've also mentioned, they were big parts. Joe Hasham went in, I can remember, to celebrate his win, we had a free-to-enter $25 re-entry tournament, and it had over 1,500 players down in the Las Vegas room. The queues were just massive. We gave away 3 packages to the World Series that year. So, he was a big sort of launch on top of the moneymaker story, as you say, with the online. The guy who spent $40 and he won the World Series 2 years earlier. So there was they were the 3 items that really set poker on its path and Hold'em on its path. Initially, Crown Poker Room was Manila, draw poker, 5-card start, and maybe a 4-8 Hold'em when we first started. And then to see what it is today is fantastic. And No Limit started to creep in into the cash games also because of what they saw on TV.
Of course, the Aussie Millions as well, Danny. I mean, the other 2 big tournaments that came into play, there was a $100,000 buy-in tournament and there was a $250,000 buy-in tournament, which always attracted a lot of interest, and the best players and billionaire businessmen from around the world would come and play those events. When did they sort of come? What was the idea around them? How did they come onto the schedule?
That's credit to Keith Sloan, actually, Bendigo. So his idea was the $100,000 tournament. So buying at that stage, nowhere around the world were they doing it. We did it as a single table challenge the first year. So it kind of made the seats are scarce, and it was a mixture of 2 or 3 American pros, a couple of rich Australians, a couple of people who backed into it, and that started it off. And then within a couple of years, you've got the 250,000, I don't know, 30, 40 entries, and the 100,000, 60, 70 entries. It was fabulous. And that that together with the 25,000, which we still see today, it was a great combination on top of the 10,000, and another big reason for the players to come from all over the world.
Andrew, you didn't play in the 250K, I don't think, at any time.
Oh, I didn't. It was a bit small change for me, the 250K. I was looking for something bigger. No, they were great, and our chairman David Stikey won one of those, didn't he, or came second in one of those one year, David? I think he did very well for himself one year. Danny, you I think one factor, and I'm going to embarrass you here. I think pretty much universally, when I've talked to poker players around the world about the best tournament directors going around, your name's always in that conversation, sometimes even at the top of that list. And I've seen you in action a lot over the years, and been at the wrong end of a couple of decisions you've made sometimes, but they've probably been right. I mean, you really are I'm going to embarrass you and say you really are a very, very good tournament director. And I've noticed, I've never seen you lose your cool. I've seen you in some really interesting and unusual situations, and you've always seemed to come up with the right answer. And I think that's another credit to the Aussie Millions. It's great that they've got you back. I mean, perhaps you could, just for a bit of fun, tell us about one or two of the most sort of unusual things that you've seen at a poker table, or tricky situations you had to adjudicate, things like that. Is there anything that comes to mind immediately?
There is one, and thank you for the compliments also, Andrew. It was in Macau, and it would include your chairman, actually, not directly. So Carlos Chang, he won't mind me mentioning it.
Yep.
He jumped into a seat of a player who had thought he'd busted, but he hadn't. After a break, played a hand, played a pot, and won a pot. And then it became to our he'd already busted separately in the tournament. Came to our attention what had happened, and David's in the background trying to give him support, saying, "Oh no, he's okay." So in the end, we kind of sorted out. The pot was what it was. That happened. I gave him a 1-year suspended sentence, just as kind of an embarrassment that I could bring up each time that I saw him in the future. Carlos, to his credit, is he's done other things in his life, but he still plays poker these days. That was certainly an interesting one. I can remember Dr. Wes, rest in peace his soul, getting into a huge argument with a player, and it was captured by Fox Sports. And Fox Sports was such a huge part of the development of the Aussie Millions. And then needing to come in and settle the argument between himself and, I think, an American player. So there's certainly been a few over the years, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, you've always handled yourself very well in those situations. What have you been up to the last few years, and how did it come about that you got involved in the Aussie Millions again?
It's an interesting path. So I left Crown 2007, came back for the 2008 just as a one-off event. Started as APPT tournament director. Was still based in Australia at that stage. Jeffrey Haas was the president of the APPT at that stage. We did our Macau event, the first ever poker tournament in Macau, and from there a permanent room started up, Poker Stars Macau. So I became based in Asia for that, had 8 years developing Poker Stars Live Macau, the APPT, and then also the Australia-New Zealand Poker Tour, which was great. So I got to come back to actually virtually every casino in Australia, including Crown. We got to Darwin, Canberra, across to Perth. So they were really good times. Queenstown, which was a huge favourite of the Australian players also. Fast forward 8 years, I left that, took a year off poker, 9 months off poker, ran into Angelica Hale. When I was talking about those VIP hosts, she was a VIP poker host early on with poker background at the Aussie Millions. And, look where that got her to, vice president of tour management for the World Poker Tour. So she encouraged me to join World Poker Tour to actually look to start an event in Macau. That never happened, but we managed to get a whole heap of events through 2017 to the middle of last year in Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia, India, Taiwan, Philippines at one stage, Australia, of course, for the first time. So that took up what the next 8 years. I did have a dual role at one stage. I had a year and a half back with PokerStars as their exec TD leading up to the PokerStars Players Championship in Bahamas. So that was a freeze out like the Aussie Millions. Great also to go along to a few EPTs and just, learn off what those guys are doing over there too. They're a very well-oiled machine, the European Poker Tour. That gets me through to last year, and with events kind of quieting down, Harold had kind of contacted me. So he'd been in Asia, and he's now the head of gaming here at Crown. A couple of years ago, I said, I can't at the moment. He asked me, interest about the Aussie Millions. I'm exclusive with World Poker Tour. But that had finished in June. And in October, I reached out to him. I said, I think it can work if you guys are interested. So in the background since then, it was interesting looking at the poker rules, which some of them were still written from the ones I wrote over 20 years ago. Going through those, going through the schedule they'd set and the structures, and just fine-tuning it. What I like is the schedule goes back to what it was in 2020, and I think it's a perfect relaunch for the Aussie Millions. And then part of my role, besides looking at all their terms and conditions, rules, and running the event, of course, is to then post-event, once we get the feedback of players, start looking to the future, to the next Aussie Millions. So that's about December, January. Got us stuck into a lot of the back of house stuff, and then it got announced recently on Poker Media Australia.
Yeah, I guess, last one for me, and then it seems like Ben's got a question too, but last one for me. What can players expect from the Aussie Millions this year? I mean, there'll be two types of players. There'll be players who are familiar with what the Aussie Millions was like back in the up day before this 6 year sabbatical. And there'll also be people who've never played an Aussie Millions before in their life, won't know what to expect. What can they expect from the Aussie Millions 2026?
All right. One thing they can definitely expect is the satelliting through Crown, which again has been a huge success. That goes back to a trip I did to Foxwoods, the three phases. Back in America, I saw there's 3 stages. They had a 10K major annual event. We're talking back 20 years ago. And it really took off in Australia, the 3 phases. So there's going to be a lot of people that qualify, locals that qualify into the tournament, which is great. But there's been 18 times the Aussie Millions been run, and 7 of them have been Aussies. And a big part of that has been the players that have satellited through. And it's a freeze out. So that's what they can expect also. It's a 10K freeze out. If you're a one bullet guy and you satellite in, you're not going to be sitting next to a person who's going to be firing multiple bullets. So that hasn't changed. Looking at the structures, they're really, really good. There's been a couple of little lines I've added. This event may not finish today. So it's the structures are decent value. And because everything is for the trophy events is 1,500 and above, the actual admin fees are excellent. So players should realise if they see, I think it's 2,500 for 250 admin fee, that incorporates the staff fee. So with what the rates are in Asia Pacific at the moment, especially the 2.5Ks and above, they're actually superior to most of the competitors. So that's a really good thing because, of course, players are always looking at every dollar when they're entering events. It's a good range. So some of the old events, the opening event, it's moved to 1,500. I think it was 1,100 or 1,000 years ago. So if, that's got the $1 million guarantee. That's definitely going to be popular. The deep freeze after the main event, great structure, and again another freeze out on the actual schedule. A couple of mixed games. There's an 8 game. There's a horse. 5K. There's 6 max PLOs. So there's a really good mix of events, and of course daily multiple opportunities to qualify to try and satellite into the main event. Crown's just started the milestone satellites, which were brought in by the Wynn Casino, Las Vegas. So I think they're going to be very well received also. And then I guess from what I bring it, it's just been when I left Crown in 2008, that's the only place that I worked at. And then I've had the benefit of seeing 3 WPT World Championships up close, the best PokerStars events in the world. So, and then what we personally developed, me and my team in Asia with PokerStars Macau. So bringing all back those learnings is hopefully going to take us up to the next stage, not only in the running of the event, but in what the future of the Aussie Millions is. So very happy to be joining Harold and Daniel also, Daniel Trubiano, who's one of the casino heads, but also ex-poker. So, and that's what you want when you're running Aussie Millions, people at the top that really like the poker. And Harold saw the Crown Poker in the very early days we went to Asia, and then he saw it explode in Asia too. So he's really got excitement in the potential for the Aussie Millions.
That sounds absolutely fantastic. A lot of variety of events and a lot of support from the top, as you say. I know Harold's all over it, so it's great that the larger Crowns organisation supporting the event as well. Ben?
Yeah, Danny, I mean, you've been travelling extensively through Asia. You were just in Cambodia for WPT there. What's your sense talking to international players about, you think quite a few are going to come to the Aussie Millions? Is that the sense you're getting?
It's looking good. So after your poker media post that I shared on Facebook, that's been the most busiest or popular post I've ever made. So that was a good indication of it. A lot of players personally at the event said, "See you there, Danny," or reached out through the comments. It's looking really positive, especially within Asia because it's grown so much. Since the last Aussie Millions in 2020. So I'd expect a really good contingent to come there. And then it was very well known, of course, in America and Europe beforehand. So looking forward to some return patronage from those players. So yeah, but looking positive, man.
Probably might be last question for you, Danny. It's probably a good way to finish. But I mean, what are you looking forward to most from this Aussie Millions this year?
I think it's going back, and a lot of these stars I haven't seen since 2008. So, my trips to Australia have always been very brief. And then if they've been for poker tournaments in the last 10 years, they haven't been to Victoria. So seeing the staff, seeing some players that I'm sure are going to come up to me and think, "Oh my God, who's this guy?" And but also just that personal motivation about coming back to the place that I was a big part of starting. I still really enjoy running tournaments. So I'm just like it was with the last Aussie Millions. I prefer to spend my day on my feet around running the tournaments with all the ones I do these days. So yeah, looking forward to getting back in the action and in such a familiar environment. So, and catching up with old friends that I haven't seen in so long too, like inside and outside of poker.
Absolutely.
Very good, Danny. Well, it's fantastic to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us. I mean, the 3 of us have made a big triangle all around the world at the moment, so we're keeping the airwaves busy. It's good to chat with you, and it'll be fantastic to see you in Crown. April 24 to May 10. Have I got that right?
I think you've got it exactly right, yeah. And so, yeah, they're the dates. Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity and with all the promotion you're doing towards the event. It all helps, that's for sure.
Oh, no worries. It's a pleasure. I mean, the Aussie Millions I've got many fond memories of the Aussie Millions. I'm sure Ben does as well. And as you say, it's one of the premier events. We were talking to Joe Hasham last week, and he was also saying that back in the day, it was one of the very few 10K events in the world. There were not many. And of course, they're all over the place now. But it's got a fond memory for many people. The Aussie Millions, and
that's right.
Through the Crown Poker Room. So it's going to be fantastic to see it up again, and we hope it continues for many more years.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thanks for Danny. Thanks for being on the show, Danny.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks very much, Ben. Okay,
We'll see you in Melbourne.
Yes, look forward to it.